of the voice? Why have we labored for so long to make the voice sound as if it's not coming from a body? Corporeality has somehow been relegated to the corners of popular music and theater. And yet, as University of Lincoln professor Dominic Simons asserts, corporeality is necessary, intrinsic, and by implication underestimated in the expressive potential of music, particularly the human voice. How would our choral soundscape shift if the body were also granted access to the concert hall? While some projects have attempted to work through the complex intersection of body, language, voice, music, few have focused specifically on the choral ensemble. This thesis engages that gap by drawing on multiple theoretical frameworks to reconcile the body with choral sound. Among the tools available to choral musicians, expressive language production, specifically consonant articulation, emerges as one of the most potent. This project proposes that consonant diction holds unique power in this regard. Consonants are corporeal, visceral, and deeply human. They were the vehicle of the transformative embodied experience I encountered while singing with Tenebrae, and they remain one of the most compelling ways to reintroduce the body to the singing voice. Few scholars explore expressive choral singing and those compelling elements that lie outside of and beyond expression through the avenue of consonant production. This study seeks to acknowledge those fleeting pre-expressive moments in choral music and examine how they interact with what follows them, the listener's perception of clarity and expressivity. More specifically, this investigation turns to the latter component, aiming to explore how perceptions of clarity and expressivity relate to consonant diction in English language choral music. By focusing on consonant delivery, this work seeks to further expand the traditional hierarchy of choral diction pedagogy, which has long prioritized vowels as the primary conveyors of vocal beauty. While shifting focus to these perceptions of clarity and expressivity marks a departure from Barth's emphasis on the purely sensory elements of music, such attention remains essential for those of us who work within the practice and pedagogy of choral music. By directing attention to consonants and their corporeal production, this project aims to deepen our understanding of how to create more visceral, meaningful, and expressively rich choral performance. The literature review for my document examines sources that contribute to expressive English diction delivery through the following avenues: a historical overview that traces the preoccupation with clear, expressive language communication; diction sources that collectively seek to explain the role and the positioning of the articulators for accurate pronunciation; scholarship on diction delivery concerning expressive diction in choral music. This aspect of choral practice offers many entry points, including intelligibility, rhythmic precision, vocal health, pedagogical approaches, and the issue of notation. Of course, no scholarly investigation of choral diction would be complete without the singular and long-standing work of former Atlanta Symphony Orchestra chorus director Robert Shaw. Shaw is most known in the choral sphere for his contributions to the metric life of language, always allotting a specific place and time within the phrase structure. However, Shaw also views diction as a material aesthetic, capable of shaping meaning beyond semantics, calling it the wine of communication. He poses a somewhat otherworldly question, asking, what if language were not limited to dictionary equivalents? This question calls into view the intuitive understanding that there is joy to be found in just making the sounds. Could a more sensory experience that celebrates corporeal presence in choral sound move beyond mere textual meaning? When discussing the presence of the body in the singing voice, returning to the theoretical and poetic framework of semiotician and linguist Roland Barthes is critical. In his essay, The Grain of the Voice, Barthes urges the reader to appreciate music outside of its expressive elements. He introduces the elusive concept of grain, which, stated plainly, is the body in the voice as it sings. Bart is referring to the presence of the human body in the singing voice, and grain of the voice is a play on grain of wood, highlighting the unique features inherent to the material, regardless of its function. Julia Kristeva, a linguist, literary critic, and student of Bart, also speaks to this phenomenon, forming a unique theory regarding the way text functions, using the terms genotext and phenotext. These are concepts adapted from the biological terms genotype and phenotype. A person's genotype is their genetic makeup, the building blocks of their DNA sequence. The phenotype is the outward manifestation or expression, such as eye color, hair color, or height. Julia Kristeva's concept of genotext refers to the building blocks of language, the elemental sounds that exist outside of meaning and expression. The phenotext is the expression, the language that serves to communicate. In his essay, Bart appropriates these two distinctions into what he calls genosong and phenosong. He implores the listener to focus less on the meaning and expression of music and more on how the sound conveys the body itself. Bart's goal is genosong and by extension, genotext. While the theories of Kristeva and Bart provide essential language for articulating bodily presence in pre-expressive qualities of sound, this study first approaches the topic from a different entry point. This investigation examines the expressive clarity and physical articulations of consonant diction that are typically foregrounded in choral performance in order to trace how they might propel us toward or open space for the pre-expressive. It adapts and reorients Bart's framework to account for the artistic and embodied realities of choral sound, where clarity and expressivity are not only necessary, but potentially revelatory in their own right. While much of the existing scholarship on diction delivery has centered on pedagogical or theoretical frameworks, the shift to quantitative literature reveals a critical gap. Empirical data aimed at capturing this approach remains largely unexplored. A study done by Dr. Katie Hauk at the University of Bern examined diction and expressivity in choral work sung in German. In this innovative and singular study, Hauk used software to measure the duration of consonants, comparing 6 interpretations of the same piece prepared by different conductors. She follows the study with a discussion on the effects of the conductor's choices surrounding diction as they relate to expressivity, and it is her study that served as a central pillar for the methodology in this project. In exploring the real-world application of current diction scholarship, particularly through the theoretical lenses of Bart and Kristeva, I was drawn back to the formative experience I had with Tenebrae. To further contextualize this study within the practical choral artistry sphere, I conducted a preliminary interview with conductor and renowned baritone Gabriel Crouch, former member of Tenebrae, the King Singers, and current director of choral activities and professor of the practice in music at Princeton University. This exploratory conversation was foundational in shaping the focus and direction of this study. Professor Crouch approached the topic of expressive diction through the lens of a performer as well as a conductor and educator. During our interview, 3 themes emerged: the role of breath in diction, sensory experience of the text, and rehearsal practices and pedagogical approaches. The key takeaway from this interview with Professor Crouch is the notion that breath is not separate from diction. It is the singular binding medium of the sound. Crouch argues that there should be a vividness to our diction and that breath has a critical role in animating the words. In execution, he suggests that consonants should be generated deep within the body, through the breath and the abdomen, rather than bitten or chewed. This internal generation, he states, leads to clarity and resonance without harshness, tension, or overproduction, substantiating the idea of the presence in the body in creating the diction. For Crouch, Diction is a physical process involving full sensory engagement. He refers to it as delight-inducing diction, encouraging singers to experience language in a tactile, embodied way, akin to savoring food or fine wine. He also drew on pedagogical imagery of kaleidoscopes, allowing the singer to experience every shade of the word, the color or shape slightly shifting as the singer moves through each phoneme. The insights from this preliminary interview underscored a real-world artistic application of expressive diction. To accomplish the goal of examining expressive choral diction through the lens of both quantitative and qualitative data, this investigation was separated into two parts: an analysis of consonant lengths in 7 selected audio examples, and a pilot study survey using the same audio examples to investigate listener preferences in terms of perceived clarity and expressivity as related to consonant diction. The audio examples for this study were excerpted from The Lamb by John Tavener, a well-known work within the standard English language repertoire. This specific critical choral excerpt selected for the survey consisted of 3 measures, measures 17 through 19, and was selected for its homophonic texture to ensure that all the elements of diction would be executed at the same time by all the ensemble members. In these 3 measurements, there were 21 identified consonant measurements. Yes, you heard me correctly. There were 21 identified consonant measurements within the critical excerpt. Measurements of the consonant lengths in the selected audio examples were completed using the phonetics and speech analysis software Pratt. Let me show you an example of a spectrogram. You will see 4 distinct visual indicators: the blue line representing pitch, the green line showing intensity, all the little red dots marking formant bands, and gray background coloration denoting noise perturbation. Using these visual markers as guides, along with intense listening, each consonant was isolated and measured to the nearest 1/10 of a millisecond. You are about to hear 180 milliseconds of sound on the consonant CH, ch. I'm going to play it twice because it goes by very fast. Again. This measurement process was performed on 21 consonants across 7 different recordings, totaling 147 consonant measurements. I really need you to understand what this means. I measured the consonant lengths in milliseconds for 147 consonants across 7 different choral ensembles. I learned how to do this with one of my committee members, Dr. Michael Hall, professor of psychology and the head of JMU's Auditory Perception Lab. We were in Pratt, the software, measuring the very first consonant, which happened to be that ch that you just heard of the word child. And he said, "Wait, play it back." And he said, "They're doing something. They are purposefully doing something here to manipulate that ch, almost like another vowel after it, before reaching the I of child, an intermediary vowel." To help clarify, an intermediary vowel is an additional, almost aspirated vowel added between the ch and the I diphthong of child. A neutral schwa was employed as an intermediary vowel between those 2 phonemes in order to lengthen the initial consonant. You will hear the Madison Chorale demonstrate this later to further clarify intermediary vowels. In the 2 places where an intermediary vowel was present, measurements were captured for both the true consonant by itself and the consonant with its intermediary vowel. Upon completion of all of these consonant measurements, their durations were summed to calculate a total combined length in milliseconds. Following the consonant measurement process, the average tempo for each audio example was determined and converted into a duration in milliseconds per beat to enable comparisons with the consonant lengths. This calculation was done to determine what percentage of each beat was occupied by consonant rather than vowel. The second part of the methodology was the survey. The survey component of this project aimed to expand Houck's 2019 analysis by adding a listener preference element. The web-based survey tool QuestionPro was used to craft the survey investigating listener preference in terms of perceived clarity and expressivity as related to consonant diction. Part 1 of the survey asked participants to listen to the audio examples of the lamb and rate them on a 7-point Likert scale in terms of how clearly they understood the consonant diction of each ensemble. Part 2 used the same audio examples for the listener to rate in terms of expressivity. The survey concluded with an optional summary response where participants could provide additional thoughts, comments, or suggestions upon completing the survey. The survey was started by 181 people and completed fully by 82 participants, with a completion rate of 46%. There was a wide range of music affiliations among the participants, ranging from community choral ensembles to professional musicians and collegiate faculty. The results from the consonant analysis and survey are organized into 3 sections: the quantitative data, the correlation of that data, how the consonant measurements, tempo, and survey results all stack up against each other, and the qualitative data. This table shows the raw consonant duration across the 7 ensembles and demonstrates that consonant length was widely varied. You can see that nasal consonants, specifically the M's, showed a tendency to lengthen more than any other consonant category. For choral directors, this means that nasal consonants are among the easiest to manipulate, and that is due to their fixed position. The mouth does not move when you say an M. Scanning your repertoire for M's and N's and their places as initial, internal, or ending consonants is a great place to begin exploratory exercises. When examined against tempo, consonant duration as a proportion of the beat gave a more nuanced picture, revealing significant differences in ensemble diction delivery. This table shown illustrates that ensembles that performed at slower overall tempos had longer summed consonant durations. When turning to the survey results, where participants rated each ensemble, yes, indeed, we had a winner. And no, I cannot tell you who that ensemble is. However, Ensemble 7 was perceived as both the clearest and most expressive. Notably, Ensemble 7 also exhibited the longest total consonant duration and the slowest overall performance tempo, substantiating the findings of the consonant measurements. Multiple statistical tests were conducted to create a macro understanding of how the factors of consonant duration, tempo, and the listener survey results interacted with each other. Let's first examine how tempo and consonant duration were related. These graphs show the relationship between summed consonant duration both with and without their intermediary vowels, and the mean BPM or the tempo for each ensemble. The negative linear relationship of both of these graphs show as the tempo got faster, the consonant length got shorter. Next, we will take a look at the relationship between tempo and the listener perception of clarity and expressivity. The data showed that as tempo increased, perceived clarity and expressivity decreased. You can see on this slide that the plot points showing the mean BPM in relation to both perceived clarity and expressivity generally cluster around the line of best fit up to a certain tempo threshold, that red line. Beyond this point, which is about 55 beats per minute, increases in tempo appear to negatively impact both clarity and expressivity for this piece. The data point to an emergence of a tempo sweet spot, or what I have affectionately called the Goldilocks tempo. Not too fast, not too slow, but just right. The Goldilocks tempo represents an ideal range at which diction is not only functional, but expressive. Of course, determining an appropriate Goldilocks tempo for any piece requires careful consideration of many factors. Nevertheless, conductors are encouraged to identify and establish tempi that enable diction to maintain both clarity and expressive integrity. The next comparison examined the relationship between listener perceptions of clarity and expressivity and consonant duration. This comparison showed that as the duration of consonants increased, the ratings for clarity and expressivity improved, specifically in instances where the choir employed intermediary vowels to lengthen the consonants even further. The data suggest that ensembles who are modifying internal syllabic structures through lengthened consonants and their intermediary vowels were perceived as having diction that is more clear and more expressive. Choral conductors should strive for diction preparation that lengthens consonants, especially using those intermediary vowels. The final comparison sought to determine the strongest predictor of perceived clarity and expressivity. Was it the tempo, or was it the length of their consonants? Audience, what do you think? Well, multiple regression analyses confirmed that for both clarity and expressivity, tempo was not a statistically significant predictor. Consonant duration with the use of the intermediary vowel was the most robust predictor of both perceived clarity and expressivity. While, of course, tempo selection is a major variable in our music performance, it could not account for all the variance in the data. For choral conductors, the suggestion remains to lengthen consonants within any given tempo. Survey your score and look for places where you can add intermediary vowels. Turning now to the qualitative data, the optional free responses were very interesting to read. Participants identified several other factors that went into their ratings that were distilled into the following themes: phrasing and syllabic stress, recording quality and acoustics, and tone quality and ensemble blend. They also corroborated the quantitative data by emphasizing both ends of the tempo spectrum in their considerations of perceived clarity and expressivity. Thus, the qualitative data also suggested that there may be a tempo sweet spot or Goldilocks tempo for diction clarity and expressivity. Now that we have explored the data that laid the foundation for this investigation, let's move into practical application with a suggested sequence for choral rehearsals. Regarding repertoire, it's best to begin with homophonic repertoire where the choir is executing the elements of diction together before moving into more polyphonic textures. Additionally, starting with a cappella settings allows singers to align their diction preparation together before adding the element of accompaniment. For sequencing consonants within a phrase, start with the internal consonants, or the consonants that happen in the middle of a word. Choral ensembles rarely focus on these internal consonants, but given proper attention to diction preparation, the internal consonants will not only aid clarity, but help propel expression. Based on the data, certain consonants offer more physical manipulative potential than others. When targeting specific phonemes, begin with the nasals. These consonants are voiced just like vowels are voiced. Singers can feel them resonating inside their bodies. Liquids, particularly the L, also lend itself well to beginning exploration. Stop consonants, such as B or P or T, are the least easy to manipulate due to the fact that they devolve into vowel almost instantaneously. These three examples are a small selection of the pedagogy of consonant delivery that is outlined in my document. We move now into the second portion of this lecture recital, where these concepts will be applied to working repertoire with a live choral ensemble. I will ask the Madison Chorale to join me as we take you through 5 short pedagogical demonstrations and the subsequent performances. The demonstrations will highlight the following pedagogical themes: basic exploration, pedagogical imagery, the Goldilocks tempo, exercises incorporating oral geography and mouthfeel, and finally, borrowing from Professor Gabriel Crouch, breath through diction. Each of these tools is designed to encourage singers to focus on the individual elements of diction that aid clarity and expression, or the phenotext, but also those elements that lie outside of expression, the genotext. The majority of our demonstrations with the choir that's going to join me in just a moment will follow the same formula. A pre-test where the Madison Chorale will sing a short passage without applying this new approach to diction delivery. The treatment, which will show the pedagogical implementation in real time, and a post-test where the ensemble will sing the same passage again, applying a more corporeal diction preparation. The first demonstration is excerpted from Moses Hogan's Hear My Prayer, an a cappella homophonic spiritual setting where we will play with some onomatopoeia in addition to the length and dynamics of our consonants. Madison Chorale, welcome to the stage! Measures 15 through 18 for everyone of Moses Hogan's Hear My Prayer as our pre-test.
Oh, dear Lord, please hear my prayer. When my work on earth is done.
Of course, that was lovely. Let's demonstrate now how we can improve upon this fragment by focusing on key consonants in this excerpt. The Z of please is a voiced fricative, so let's play a game with some onomatopoeia words. Choir, would you say buzz?
Buzz.
I wonder how long you can make that Z and how long is too long. Try again.
Buzz.
Now, would you say sizzle?
Sizzle.
How loud can you make that Z? And keep in mind, how loud is too loud? Try again.
Sizzle.
Echo me, please, with a long Z. Lord, please hear.
Lord, please hear.
Yes, that was great. Very clear, but not too long. Now let's talk about the ends. Ends are nasals. Let's explore ends through some more of our onomatopoeia games. Would you all say din, dan, don?
Din, dan, don.
How loud can you make your N? How loud is too loud? Play around with it.
Din, dan, don.
Ah, yes, very French of us. Just like the French language, we need to put this back in our body through the mask and through the resonating chamber. Would you echo me, please? When my work is done.
When my work is done.
Excellent. I love how you resonated that all the way through your resonating chambers. Now, let's put that back in the music and see if it makes it clearer. We'll sing the entire phrase, focusing on both the Z and the N through the body.
Oh, dear Lord, please hear my prayer. When my work on earth is done.
Can you hear a difference, audience? Choir, how many of you were much more engaged in your body and the physicality of your diction delivery? Yes, thank you. Our second demonstration will focus on the critical choral excerpt from the survey from John Tavener's The Lamb, where we're going to bring back the concept of the intermediary vowel. Here is our pretest, measures 17 through 19. I, a child, and thou, a lamb. we are going to isolate two words, child and called, both of which can employ an intermediary vowel to lengthen the preceding consonant. These two pedagogical images show the word child. The image on the left shows the kaleidoscope moving through each phoneme as we would typically say it. The image on the right shows the kaleidoscope with an added yellow wedge, indicating the intermediary vowel, an almost imperceptible neutral schwa sound that is used to artificially lengthen the ch. I say artificially because a true lengthened ch just becomes ch. But an intermediary vowel allows the preceding ch to lengthen before arriving at the target diphthong, I. Madison Chorale, would you please demonstrate child chanted without an intermediary vowel like we would normally sing it? Child. Now would you demonstrate child chanted with an intermediary vowel? Child. Now let's sing it without the intermediary vowel. Child. Now let's sing it with the intermediary vowel. Child. Without. Child. And with. Child. Now let's sing the entire phrase, I a child and thou a lamb, with that intermediary vowel. The same diction preparation to the word called in the second phrase. Choir, would you please demonstrate called without an intermediary vowel, just chant it. Called. Would you now chant it with the intermediary vowel? Called. Now let's sing it, first without. Called. Now let's sing it with an intermediary vowel. Called. Without. Called. And with. Called. Now let's put it back into the music. We are called by his name. Sing the entire excerpt, both phrases together, with the intermediary vowel. And a reminder to you and to the audience that ensembles that employ the intermediary vowel in the survey were perceived as the most expressive and the most clear. Let's see how they do. Hogan's Hear My Prayer, and John Tavener's The Lamb.
In the morning.
demonstration tonight centers around the Goldilocks tempo, which strives to find a tempo for every piece of music, where diction is not only functional, but expressive within the parameters set forth by the composer and the style. For this demonstration, we will sing a selection from The Bluebird by Villiers, Stanford. Stanford only gives us larghetto tranquillo as a tempo and affect descriptor, which means somewhat slowly or broadly and calm. While that does not prescribe a specific tempo, most musicians agree larghetto is somewhere around 60 beats per minute. I have already done the diction pretest with this piece in rehearsal, so now we will demonstrate, even with the best possible diction, tempi that are too slow and too fast. Too slow, and the words become distorted and lose their clarity. Let's have a listen. Loses its expressive potential. A tempo that's just right allows the diction to be clear and expressive, which for this interpretation is right around 55 beats per minute, which maintains Stanford's larghetto tranquillo. We would now like to share for you the entire performance of the Bluebird at our favorite Goldilocks tempo.
Oh,
into accompanied repertoire, we will focus on 2 additional pedagogical concepts: oral geography and a term from the culinary arts, mouthfeel. Every language has its own unique mouthfeel, as do the individual consonants as you kiss their execution. These exercises encourage students to explore the feeling of the text in the mouth and the resonating chambers using imagery and prompts. First, we will do our pre-test on measures 26 through 31 of Eric Nelson's How Do I Love Thee? I love thee, specifically the voiced V. Y'all know love is one of the most common themes that we sing about in choral music, so we have to get this one right. Choir, let's begin with chanting. Would you please chant, I love thee, 3 times. And I invite you to taste this language as if you were savoring a fine wine. Together.
I love thee. I love thee. I love thee.
I wonder, where do you taste those syllables in your mouth? Michael, where do you taste it?
My bottom lip.
Your bottom lip, thank you. Paige, where do you taste it?
My top teeth.
Yeah, top teeth. Mac, where do you taste it?
Tip of my tongue.
Yes, thank you. So now let's isolate just one instance of I love thee at measure 31, and let's sing it using the physicality of your resonators as the guide. Here's measure 31. Again, but let me ask you this time to feel the sound in your mouth behind your front teeth and more on the V. Taste that language. Here's 31.
I love thee.
Now, let's put it in context and transfer it to every I love thee in the phrase. We're back at measure 26. That text and that you could feel that resonated V of the word love. Our final demonstration tonight draws on the concept introduced to me in my interview with Professor Gabriel Crouch, breath through diction. The key takeaway from this interview is the notion that breath is not separate from diction. It is that singular binding medium of the sound. Crouch emphasized, breath supports diction in creating that vivid quality to words that make them come alive. They have breath. They don't just have spit. For this demonstration, we will focus on a section of Elaine Hagenberg's Measure Me Sky, where the text propels the line into a long melisma, where breath management through the diction preparation is essential. Here is our pretest.
Sky be my death, wind be my width and my height.
Madison Chorale, let's begin with chanting this text. No pause in the engine. Everything is sustained. Let's chant together.
Sky be my death, wind be my width.
single C minor chord, sustained throughout, while moving your breath through your diction. Here is your chord at measure 25.
Sky be my depth, wind be my width and my height.
Now, let's sing the entire phrase as written. I invite you to place one hand either on your abdomen so you can feel that kind of kinesthetically bodily engagement of your breath, or on your mask to feel the breath going through your resonators. Folks, this is the difference between getting past the vowel and getting past the consonant and going through the consonant. Here's 25.
Sky be my depth, wind be my width and my height.
They sound pretty good, don't they? In summary, the following checklist, culled from the findings and strategies presented in this lecture, is intended to assist choral conductors in implementing a more nuanced, expressive, and embodied approach to diction. Select tempos that allow diction to be both intelligible and expressive. Prioritized voiced and lengthened consonants in diction preparation. Identify and employ intermediary vowels to lengthen consonants, enrich phonetic color, and improve intelligibility. Focus on embodied diction, integrating the physicality of the language consciously through the resonators to access the expressive and those pre-expressive qualities of sung speech. Integrating these 4 entry points into score study and lesson planning can foster a clearer and more expressive approach to corporate diction delivery, in addition to creating space for those pre-expressive moments like the one I experienced with Tenebrae. At this time, we would like to share the performance of Eric Nelson's setting of the poignant poem by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, How Do I Love Thee? for this project, it would be valuable to replicate this study with a larger ensemble sample in a controlled studio setting with each singer recorded individually. Further research could also benefit from quantifying participants' listening tools such as headphones, earbuds, and computer speakers to control for potential discrepancies. Looking to the future of corporeality and choral sound, I was again drawn back to the formative moment I had with Tenebrae on this very stage. This lecture and the document that accompanies it began with the memory of tangible bodily presence in the sound that reshaped the way the music was perceived. While this investigation has intentionally foregrounded the dimensions of choral sound, often associated with expression, the phenotext, in order to access or point toward pre-expression, the genotext, further research might reverse this priority altogether. What might it mean for choral ensembles to center the raw materiality of genotext as their primary focus? By pursuing the genotext as a guiding principle, that is much more than just a goosebump moment, researchers and choral musicians could begin to reimagine choral sound beyond the boundaries of expressivity as it is traditionally defined. This reframe does not negate the vital importance of meaning, diction, or ensemble precision. Rather, it opens alternative avenues for vocal presence. In doing so, it invites a choral future where the voice is not only expressive, but pre-expressive, more than expressive, and radically embodied. As UNCG voice faculty member, soprano Lindsay Kesselman once remarked in a vocal masterclass, "You are a whole person and a whole body, not just a voice. Use it." This study affirms that sentiment. Choral diction is not merely vocal work. It is full-bodied musical engagement. Through conscious manipulation of the diction strategies outlined in this lecture and in the accompanying document, ensembles can create performances that are not only highly intelligible, but deeply and indelibly human. As the body is indeed restored to the singing voice, perhaps the humanity might follow as well. not happen alone, and I'm just gonna cry through it, so I'm so sorry. There are many people to whom I owe deep gratitude for their support, love, and guidance throughout this process and beyond. Thank you sincerely to Dr. Joanne van der Vat-Chromy, my thesis advisor and committee chair, and to the rest of my brilliant document committee, Dr. Bryce Hayes, Dr. John Gibson, Dr. Michael Hall, and Dr. Judith Ofkarchik. To the Forbes Center production staff for their help with this entire performance. To the students of the Madison Chorale for coming with me on this journey and for giving so much of your artistic selves in the process. To our phenomenal collaborative pianist, Adam Schenk, who will get his bow later, don't you worry. To Professor Gabriel Crouch at Princeton University. To my doctoral cohort mates, Dr. Nikos Miroyanis Koukos and future Dr. Colin Kasi for sojourning this path of academia with me. To my friend and my mentor, Dr. Ianthi Marini, the wild artist that I always aspire to be. To my lifelong friends, Elizabeth Keppel and Clay Todd, for being my village. To my grandmother, Ernestine Balzer, a woman who never had the opportunity to go to college and whose shoulders I stand on every day. To my mom and my dad, Brian and Tammy Balzer, for being my loudest cheerleaders and my softest place to land. To my husband, Chris Walton, the steadfast supporter of our whole world. And finally, to my daughter, Ella, the greatest title I will ever wear is Mom. I love you. We close this lecture with a performance of Elaine Hagenberg's transcendent setting of Measure Me Sky. Thank you all sincerely for being here this evening.